You are listening to Family First Paranormal Radio. Today, the team will be broadcasting from the historical Granada Theater in Ontario, California. If you would like to get a hold of us, you can do so by visiting our website at www.familyfirstparanormal.com. If you would like to email us, you can do so at familyfirstparanormal@gmail.com. Without any further delays, let's join the team in the investigation already in progress at the historical Granada Theater in Ontario, California.
Welcome to the Paranormal podcast here with Family First Paranormal, and just go around and we'll introduce ourselves. My name's Carl.
I'm Larry Ganderpool.
And I'm Paula.
And we have Sue here with us. And can you tell us your relationship to Larry and Paula?
I'm their sister.
Cool.
And it's very late here. It's 20 to 2 in the morning.
Yeah, we're at the Granada Theater, and we've had some interesting things happen, but we'll get into that later. Let's see. We had some questions. I posted on Twitter that we're going to do this, and we had some questions come in, and we're just going to go off and do these questions. The first one is, we'll do this for Larry. Can you tell us about how the team got started?
Actually, it was Carl and I were discussing. We had a common interest in kind of the paranormal and the things that go on. And what we did was invest in some preliminary equipment, and that was kind of what drove us. The first thing we were testing at our house. We just moved out of a house in Wildemar, and we began testing equipment. That's when we actually started getting our first insight into the paranormal and the technology and that type of interaction. And then from there, we contacted my sister Paula, who's always had kind of an intuitive spirit, and we kind of brought her in, and we were able to do some incredible stuff, I think, at the Wildemar house as far as document from with a technology standpoint, and then also Paula coming in with an intuitive thing and being able to cross-reference and kind of balance each other, giving a little added evidence to what's going on. And then even at the end of that was the release of the young girl. So that was kind of how it all got started, and from there we started the web page and got some contacts, and Carl's been really involved in doing that and networking us. So that's kind of where we are today.
Cool. Paula, can you tell us about your abilities and how exactly do you see the other side?
Well, sometimes I get a feeling when somebody's present. Sometimes I see, and then I hear too as well. Trying to think how you explain the gifts. That it's kind of hard to explain.
Do you see them as people, as you and me, or do you
no,
see them?
That's kind of like a feeling. I can feel when somebody's around, and then when you kind of work with them a little bit to see what's going on, then you get a better feel for like female, male, adult, child. So then, because then when I can hear them or start communicating, I start getting a clearer picture as we go along. So it's not actually seeing with your physical eyes, like if you were to look with your own eyes. Sometimes out of the corner of your eye you can catch a flash of something and maybe kind of tune into that a little. But that's kind of how it works for me.
So can you see if a little girl is wearing a dress, if she's wearing like pants, or if she has long hair, blonde hair, brown hair?
Yeah, if they want me to see that image that they want to project of what's going on or what's happening, like as Amy, when we first came in contact with her at the Wildemar house, had been burned. And so she was kind of showing that to me. And then as soon as I was talking to her about that, no, you're very beautiful, you're very pretty, spirit, and and then it fell away from her, so I could kind of see her a little bit as a child, but then it turns more into a feeling of what's happening with her, kind of like her letting me know some feelings that she had and things that had happened.
So does that maybe tie into sometimes when you're in a place like this and even normal time things like crawling will get all at once like a feel of apprehension or something that doesn't feel normal with what you're doing, but all at once your heart will be a little faster, maybe you get an emotion of anger or something? I mean, is that something that might be past and we just don't recognize it?
Yeah, I think the more that everyone pays it, everybody's probably had a similar feeling like that, and the more you pay attention to them, I think the more it happens, and then the clearer it gets as you go with it. Because you can get that feeling of, well, just like a few minutes ago, Carl and I were up in the balcony, and we were helping somebody cross over, and then I turned and looked and clearly saw somebody in the corner seat. You know, I mean, kind of an outline of a presence was there. And we went up there, so that I saw and kept looking back and seeing. So sometimes I can see, like the image that they want, like with a time period or something like that. But we went to check that, and we could feel the difference in the air and things like that. I mean, I love the technical stuff because it kind of verifies things for me as well. Because you tend to question yourself once in a while. But
Let's see, Sue, did you always know that Paula had these gifts?
Pretty much, since we were young girls, I did. And even when we were teenagers, there was so much going through adolescence. There were other things happening, and so she didn't talk too much about things. And then she talked a bit about it when she was newly married, but then was concerned how she'd be perceived by her husband, and definitely her husband's family, things like that. So she kind of just shut it down at that point, and after a while I just quit asking.
Let's see, some more questions. We kind of talked about Larry, your house in Wildemar. One of the questions was asked, can you tell us about what was found and the photo of Sam? How did you feel about that?
Actually, while it was happening, we were kind of filming, and we were more or less looking kind of at orbs and that stuff through the cameras and everything. It wasn't until after we started to review the data that we actually saw the picture of my stepdad in the mirror. I mean, it was an exact image of him, and kind of recognized him right away. Of course, he'd been passed for a good 20 years or so. But, and that was kind of one of the other things that escalated us kind of involving Paula, because we didn't want to go to the normal thing and go and take a picture and look at all this evidence, but then everything's as it is and we really don't understand what's going on or how we can help or what's going on. So that's kind of became one of the core things of the Family First Paranormal, is not just to investigate and look at it, but if we have the potential of helping somebody maybe cross over or deal with an issue that's holding them on, that's been kind of one of our foundations. Is if we can do that, we're going to do that. We're going to help people move over. But there was quite a bit of activity at the house, and I think if you guys go to the website, you can probably see the video that speaks more for itself than I can tell you. But there were a lot of stills and a lot of video, I think, of us asking questions and leveraging the technology. I think it was a pretty good investigation.
Yeah, I mean, I could speak for myself. We didn't have a lot of the equipment that we do now. I mean, we were just starting, and we have video of orbs actually following us and moving around us, where it's not just dust. You can tell dust falls from like the ceiling to the ground, and we've actually had things flying at us, and they move when they come around us, and stuff like that was really cool. I remember one night, right when we walked in there, we opened the garage, and we're just kind of walking around the house, getting a feel for it, and I see a shadow figure move in, like next to the fireplace, and it just vanishes. And to me, that kind of clinched everything, and especially going home, and I think it was that night where we got EVPs of the little girl in there, Amy, actually speaking to my son, Philip. And that was just something that was the coolest thing ever. And I do remember that one night clearly where we went in there just to kind of wrap it up, and the ghost meter just starts going off, and we started contacting Sam.
But I think let them know also too, the identification with Philip and Sam is Carl and his wife and children had stayed with us for a little bit, and we think that Amy was active and maybe communicating with Philip back and forth at that point, because when they noticed Carl in there, that was what the EVP was, is, you know, kind of where's Philip, what's going on with Philip. And
right. I think it said like, Philip, don't cry, or you don't need to cry, or something like that.
So,
and we've caught Amy's voice 3 or 4 times in that house, and it was just such a cool thing knowing that someone was playing with my son, that had fun with my son, and it was just a really cool feeling. And one of the questions is, Paula, can you tell us a little bit about Amy and describe her to us, and who she was, what happened to her, and how we actually helped her?
Yeah, when we first made contact, when I first saw her and came into the house, remember you came right behind me and got pictures, and I think the hardest part for me with Amy was when we went out into the field. She actually had been abducted from kidnapped from another state. She crossed state line, and she had been very brutally attacked and murdered. And when we went out to the field where it actually had happened, I think it was very emotional for me because, of course, I love children, and it was just a horrible thing, and it was difficult for her getting that point across. And the sad thing was, it started out because she thought she'd done something wrong, because it was somebody she knew, and I think her brother was crying or something, and then suddenly this person's taking her away or somewhere. So I think she thought she was punished. So we had to let her know what happened, and I think for me it was a really good experience because she came from showing herself as a burned up person that was being punished, and understanding finally that, you know, she wasn't. And then I believe I was asking her when we were crossing her over if she saw her mother, but she said it was her aunt, so I'm not sure if her aunt raised her.
Yeah, we got that EVP where you said, can you say auntie as loud as you can, and we got auntie.
Yeah, because she was, when I would say you can see your mom or take your mom's hand, and she wasn't. I think she told us it was her aunt then, and then she did say it out loud for us. And she stopped at one point to get something, and I think she was showing me it was a doll and some jacks or something. Yeah. So she ran to grab those. And I still strongly feel there was something in that field, and they've rebuilt and things on it now, so I don't know that anything would be found, but she did tell me her name was Amy. And we watched her go from that, and I believe Sam was there helping her because he has a daughter that was blonde, blue-eyed, and then he was trying to help her, but she was frightened of male figures, deep voices, and we all worked together, and she crossed over, and it was a really good feeling because I think we could all feel it in the room as she crossed because everything stopped immediately, but it was just a really good feeling to help her be at peace. And even though it seems like that here, that she's a child while she's here, once she crosses over, everything's okay. It's not like children are there wandering around lost. It was just a crossover that needed to be done, or a connection to make complete, I guess you could say, too.
And we also did try to go back and do a little investigation to see if we could locate, but I mean, not knowing the state and not knowing the exact year or anything, it became very difficult to try to verify, but we did make the attempts to go back and see,
if there was anyone
any name Amy within that, a 10 or 15 year period type of thing, but without knowing the specific state and stuff, it was, we couldn't really validate everything.
Right, and I know my wife, Jamie, if she can't find, she puts her heart and soul into trying to find something, and I ask her to find anything on the internet, and she can do it in less than 5 minutes, and if she can't find anything, then nothing's out there. Let's see, let's move from that house. And let's go to the Whaley House in San Diego. We had a question asked, let's talk about the photo of Mrs. Whaley. And I'll start off with that. We were going around and we just set up. I was going around taking pictures, and we get to Mrs. Whaley's room, and we take a photo, and it shows that there's someone behind the bed. And it's almost like a mist-like figure, but there's shape and form to the figure. There's a couple other figures like crouching down behind it, like they're told to be there, or like that's just where they hide when something's in the house that they don't understand what's going on, or that's their safe spot. And we added a whole bunch of different filters into it in Photoshop, and it shows up as a person in like that time period when Mrs. Whaley was alive. It could be her, it could be Anne, maybe the daughter it was, but it was just, it blew my mind because we didn't see that at the time, and even looking at the photo on the camera, we didn't see that. I mean, what's your guys' take on it?
But isn't that fairly common? That I mean, you might have some experience when you're doing it, but it really comes back when you start to do the look at the materials and the investigation and the EVPs and all that. I mean, that's really when you kind of get a sense of what went on. But yeah, I thought that picture was incredible because it almost looks like there's a man kind of standing up. The woman's kind of on her knees, and it almost looks like a kid or something behind them. Yeah, no, I thought that was one of the better proofs.
Right.
And I think it kind of proves who's in charge too.
Yeah. Speaking of that, the video of Mr. Whaley choking you. Can you tell us about that? Because I know from my standpoint, I went up there with like meters, cameras, trying to find it, trying to see what was going on. Nothing. I think even at one point I got a little mad and I said, well, stop choking my aunt and start choking me. And for me, that was just, you know, we heard that they don't choke women there. We've heard that it's not Mr. Whaley. What's your take? What were you going through at that time?
Well, I knew it was somebody that was definitely in charge, and I think that he works through fear. So when I wasn't afraid, I think it was a little bit more like angry or something, and I just kept trying to say, you know, if you need help, let me know. If you don't, let me know what's wrong. And then I kept feeling that, and I actually even got like a little bit of a kick or a boot or something in my back. And I think we even got that on video.
Yeah.
But I wasn't afraid, and I think they realized that. But yeah, it was somebody in charge enough that they wanted me to know that this isn't going to happen. Because I actually had been contacted by a young person that wanted help in crossing over. So that's one of the reasons we were in there trying to work with it. And I think he just basically wanted to let me know he's in charge, not us or whatever. But that was kind of a different experience. I have not had that before.
Didn't you say at one point that it almost felt like there was a block at one point during that thing where it was like, you know, you were accessible and then all at once somehow they got cradled where that connection or something was, and you couldn't,
like their vibrations were too low or something.
Right, and because they wanted no part in that kind of a release or something, because I think they liked where they were or whatever, and so sometimes you can't make that connection because some people aren't ready or they don't realize or they are so caught up and busy in what they're doing.
But that was one of the first times that we'd actually seen physical evidence. In other words, you had been talking about being choked, but then I think you've got the pictures. And I don't know if you put them on the website or something, but I think you could actually see physical
And we actually didn't
indication.
even know that till we were on our way home, and I kept saying, wow, it's very strange because it still burns. And then Carl kind of looked, I guess, at the light and thought, oh my gosh, there's the mark.
Yeah,
and they say women
Right.
don't get choked, but we heard before some women got kind of burny feelings on their necks or
Right.
whatever. So we've heard that before, but the only thing is would say it was this other person, and we got very clear EVPs that it's Mr. Whaley.
Yeah, because it was loud, get out.
Yeah, it was get out,
and
and
unhappy.
it sounded like Mr. Whaley was arguing with his daughter, and it was get out, and the daughter saying no, and the daughter wanting help because she's sick of being in that house,
and then we even heard her saying stop when he was
Right.
choking me. It's really clear that she's saying stop. So
let's see. We have video of Mr. Whaley in the upstairs bedroom. There is reports of a man opening and closing the blinds. We caught an apparition. Can I tell you it's a man? Can I tell you it's a woman? No. But you can clearly see that there's a figure and it's by a window. We only catch it for a second, and thank God I didn't blink during that time when I was looking at the evidence. But yeah, we did catch that. And let's see, they wanted to know final thoughts on the house. Probably, will we go back? What did we think? Was it positive? What's our final thoughts?
On the Whaley house?
Yeah, on the Whaley house.
Yeah, I'd like to do it again. I think in maybe a year or so to come back afresh. I think we know more now in where we probably want to set up the cameras to catch a little bit of difference.
Right.
But I think one of the things that we discussed before is sometimes when they're doing the tours and that stuff, it tends to have an effect on it too, where it brings the energy out and there seems to be more interaction. So I think we learned from the first investigation. I think the second investigation will probably always be improved. So yeah, I personally would like to go again.
Paula?
yeah, I would like to go back again too, because I still think there's some things there that need to be cleared up and helped out with and straightened out, I guess you could say.
Right, yeah. Let's move on to the William Heath Davis house, just a quick drive down the street from the Whaley house. And I guess the first question is actually for me, and it's about the rocking chair video. When we first got in that house that night, we walked the whole house. Out of the corner of my eye in the upstairs bedroom, I saw movement. I go in there without cameras, and I see a rocking chair rock, and I talked to Paula, hey, do you see this too? And she said, yeah, no, it's definitely rocking. And what's funny is when we caught this on camera, it's a completely different rocking chair, and I did try to debunk it. I jumped, I moved, I rocked it myself to see how hard you have to push it, and it's beyond me how it moved, other than it's called paranormal. That's why we do this, to catch that stuff. And I guess I should ask Larry about the DVR cameras and why. Someone asked me why the cameras weren't placed, like one on that chair, and one was on that chair. It just didn't work that night.
Basically, I'd love to tell you I know why, but I don't know why. We had 8 cameras set up, and we had 3 of them record. I mean, everything was in place, everything was set up to record. We've never had issues before, we've never had issues since. But actually, 5 of the 8 cameras, not an ounce of anything was recorded against it on the DVR. We did hear some clicking activity, I think, on one of the cameras there in the room, but the same thing with the IR lights were lit. I mean, everything looked functional, and we had no indication, of course, until we get home and start loading up the DVR, and there's nothing there for 5 of the cameras. So I have no excuse. I just a glitch, something, or somebody didn't want us to see 5 cameras. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, because in one of the rooms we had somebody turning them on and off, because we clearly saw that, and I think we took a picture or something. Right?
Yeah, actually, they were clicking the camera. I mean, the manual camera off and flashing, if you remember, right?
Yeah, I mean, the camera in question was placed, if you ever do go to the William Heath Davis house, the camera was placed in like their medical room, where they have a couple beds in there, and
We had the children and sick children, because they were small beds.
the cameras that we have are IR cameras, and if the lights are on, they record full color, everything just fine. When the lights are off, They record in night vision.
But we even had the one that wasn't tied to the DVR. It was kind of a standalone manual camera that we had on a tripod recording, and when we were in talking to the kids, the tripod pushed over.
Yes.
And then we had the little manual camera with the flash, and we had sat in the middle of the room, and it started flashing off like somebody pushed the button. So I think there was at least some camera interactions there that we've never seen before.
They just didn't want us there, but there's definitely stuff there.
It's an interesting investigation. We recommend it to other people as well.
Yeah, the only problems with that house is that the walls are so thin that you get sound bleeding from the outside. You hear every movement outside. You hear everybody talking from outside. So if you're going to catch EVPs, it's going to be of outside area.
I think ours was right around the Halloween in the entire city.
Yeah,
we had more noise than usual.
Let's see. Larry, do you want to talk about your experience in the attic?
I can remember. I think that was.
I want to get that too.
That was the very first time I think I've ever had any kind of physical interaction. I mean, I've seen the evidence, we've seen meters go off, but I've never physically kind of felt anything. And it's almost hard to explain, but we were up sitting in the attic, and I think we were. Carl and I were discussing something, and it was just like all the energy in you was just sucked out. I mean, even trying to form a thought became a very, very focused ordeal. I mean, I actually had to leave. It was that bad. And even going up the stairs into the attic, it was almost like a vertigo, sense of where's my balance? How am I doing this type of thing? So, and I was fine the next day. I mean, not a problem or anything, but that was really the first time that.
And that whole area, we would feel that vertigo every time we went kind of to that area.
Right, that wasn't just me there, but that was the first time that I had felt it.
I was sitting right next to you, and we were asking intelligent questions too, because the guy is up there is, what was he, a German soldier or something that came?
Yeah.
It was a spy.
And his name was Carl something or other. And we were asking intelligent questions like, did you kill anybody? What year is it? Who's the president? Was your mission successful? And then I look at Larry, and he's just like, it's a feeling like you left the stove on, but you didn't. And I'm going what?
You should be doing something, or something that you need to do, but you just don't know what it was. So it's that kind of sense of
it was
control.
Yeah, because I think the farther from the situation they get, the memory dissipates.
Disorienting or something.
But then when he had clear points to make, he was a very strong presence. So I think when he had, and we actually went up where he was.
Paula, what was your feelings about that house?
There was a lot of activity in that house, and I think I'd like to find out more about it. I mean, we were given things or facts, or I was told things that were really interesting with him because he evidently, I mean, I saw things of what he was doing or how he was getting code out or something, but there was also with the children, there were children there that somebody was watching over.
Oh, yeah.
And it was very active in that area because we actually put the little tea set out, the little silverware, and I lined it up with the line on the floor, the hardwood floor, and all that stuff had been moved around. So I think that they're pretty obvious with their activities because it's like kids, so they're playing. So that was kind of
Let's see.
interesting.
Granada Theater, thoughts about tonight and what was found?
I really don't know what was found. I mean, I've obviously seen some orbs and some bouncing. I mean,
noises.
Paula was able to make, contact up in the, I guess that would be the projector room that we were up
and then also the balcony with the little girl. But we still have a lot to finish up with that because we've had somebody say there's things they want to clean up was the words they used, and then I don't know if they kind of faded away from energy or what, but that kind of backed off a little bit, but I'm sure we'll get more on that. and looking over our records and
Right.
things.
I have hours of stuff to look over.
But we've all heard noises, like we heard a child laughing and then some whistling, and then just a while ago when we were closing everything up, there was a huge bang in the back behind the stage
Yeah, I
here.
kept hearing like that bubble sound until I found out it was my sister's phone. Kind of blew the whole...
Yeah.
Yep. And I guess we'll wrap up with everybody's thoughts on this. I got an email this week by a guy named Trent, and actually really close to where we live. He says, I was on the 215 freeway going north. This is my third time seeing this weird flying lights on the road around this location between 10:45 and 11:45. He says he can't remember exactly what time it was, but he knew that he was on the road about that time. And he said he had 3 people in the car. They all saw it, and it was a red light, and then it flashed white. And the couple other times that he saw it with the same 3 people, he had his radio on, the station kind of went fuzzy, and he saw the same exact thing. What are your thoughts about that, guys?
Was there any video involved? Was he able to...
I wish.
Camera? Because do you know where exactly on the 215? And you got March Air Force Base?
He just said on the 215.
Because I remember we
Passing
had read
like
an
a minute
article
ago.
or something. It wasn't. I mean, there was, I think, some reports of
Things being
stuff a
seen.
couple of
Right.
years ago on
Yeah.
on that happening. I think it'd be interesting to take a look at. I wouldn't mind, doing an investigation, or maybe even putting some cameras out, or seeing if we could check it. But without video, I mean, you know how hard it is when it's just.
Well, and I do know if you guys just YouTube, like UFOs in the Temecula area, there's always like stuff in the sky, and it just seems like we're in the right place for that stuff. But I don't know if that has to do with March Air Force Base. I've driven by that place and seen planes hovering, like 100 feet above the ground and not being able to hear them. So I don't know if they just have, if that's what he saw, something like that, or a helicopter that he couldn't hear or something.
Yeah, I think those are the questions you got to ask yourself when you're doing that kind of stuff, or at least looking for
Right.
it. Does it fit into a category that, because if you can logically identify it, I think that's the way you've got to go first.
Well, especially the same time every night, and we sometimes hear the jets, but I would like him to tell us more details about it, what he
course.
saw.
Was there any electrical disturbances within the car?
Yeah,
Was
he
He
there
said
said
no-
the radio.
station.
Yeah.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, it went
Okay.
fuzzy.
Yeah, that
So
would
I'd
be
like
my-
to hear, his description more about what he actually saw.
And
since
maybe
he
even
saw
just
more than one.
sketch what he saw.
Yeah, that would be
Yeah.
The
awesome.
red light, is it? Miles. Okay, well, I think
wrap
we're going
this
to need
up.
to be leaving here.
Oh, yeah,
right
it
on,
is
So we probably need
like
to wind this up.
2:15. So, yep. Thank you guys for listening, and
We'll come
Yeah.
back soon.
thank you guys.
Thank you for listening to this podcast of Family First Paranormal Radio. If you like today's music, the artist is White Collar Sideshow, and the song is called This Is a Kill. You can find White Collar Sideshow at their website, www.whitecollarsideshow.com. Until next time, keep it paranormal.